Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU. I'm Zion Trammell here with my co-host Seth Dowdle with a TCU women's basketball episode as the Horned Frogs advance to the Elite Eight for the second consecutive year after a 79-69 win over Virginia. It was a great win for the Frogs. We were not expecting this to be the matchup. We were kind of expecting that Iowa would be the matchup, and it ended up being Virginia.
Yeah, I was fully prepared to play Ava Hayden and whatnot. And instead, we got Virginia. And at first, I was like, all right, like this is going to maybe not like an auto trip to the Elite Eight. But I was thinking that TCU was going to handle Virginia, pretty handily. But, the Cavaliers, to their credit, they gave TCU all they could handle, especially in that first half. But eventually, the Horned Frogs and the might of Marta Suarez and Olivia Miles, which we're going to talk about their greatness in this game throughout the course of this episode, it was just too much for Virginia to handle. Props to them, by the way, for a great run. Like 10 seed to the Sweet 16 in the women's tournament is kind of not something that happens that often. So props to them for a great run, but even more props to TCU for going to back-to-back Elite Eights. Mark Campbell, you absolute wizard. What have you done? 26 months ago, this team was holding open tryouts for players in the middle of the season, and 26 months later, back-to-back trips to the Elite Eight.
It is absolutely insane what he has done with this program, and he's done it with like different personnel. Obviously, Haley Van Lith and Madison Connor, and was leading this team last year, right? And then this year, it's two new players at the helm with Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez. But what a performance from those two! We'll go into it right now. They scored or assisted on all 79 points for TCU. When they announced that on the broadcast, I could not believe it. That is absolutely insane. Obviously, high usage for those two players, but they were both feeling it. So I don't blame them at all for wanting to just
qualms with this whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Marta Suarez had a career high 33 points and 10 rebounds, shot 4 of 7 from 3. Olivia Miles had 28 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, only missed 3 shots, was flirting with the triple-double. It starts and ends with those two, and it just shows what the potential of this team is when those two are going. And it was quite a show and really a tremendous win for the Frogs. Because, again, Virginia kind of snuck up on TCU for a little bit there. They were hanging around, and they knocked off Virginia. They beat Georgia. So this was a team that was kind of in this midst of a pretty special run for them. But TCU, like they have for most of this season, takes care of business, and they find themselves in the Elite Eight. When you're talking about this game, it really just centers around Suarez and Miles. I mean, you look at this box score, and it's just all of them. Like, it's crazy. It's literally just two players. Claire Silva had 8 points and 8 rebounds. Taylor Bigby had 8 points. She knocked down a couple big threes, but it literally was just those two.
Shout out Kennedy Basham for 2 points off the bench.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, this game, like more so than any that TCU has played pretty much all season, was like the starters. Suarez played all 40. Donovan Hunter played all 40, and Olivia Miles played all 40. Silva was on the bench for 5 minutes, and Bigby was on the bench for 4. And so it was like just those players for the entirety of the game. And guess what? I don't care.
It's at this point of the year where you just got to go to your best players, and the team that can fight up until the end and can kind of have the stamina to withstand that, that many minutes is going to advance. And that's kind of what happened with TCU. The turning point was really that third quarter. They outscored them 24-11, and they've done this several times. They come out of the half looking strong, and that's what was kind of the difference. Miles and Suarez working together and sort of activating takeover mode in that third quarter.
Yeah, and they were really big, like just kind of spitballing of like things that pop into the head of like what was big in that third quarter. Offensive rebounds were massive. Like Virginia could not collect a rebound to save their lives. Massive credit to Clara Silva on this for a lot. Like TCU was getting multiple chances on possessions and they cashed in on them. So that's really awesome as well. I think they went like on an 8-0 run out of the half too, just kind of setting that tone that, hey, like y'all might have had the lead at the half, but like, don't even forget about it.
9 offensive rebounds and 33 total boards for TCU, and that's where like Claire Silva just is such an important player. Had they faced Iowa, I think Iowa was a little bit
more physical,
kind of more of a
interior,
physical team where that could have been an issue for TCU. So that's where it kind of played out well that Virginia ended up winning that game, because not that TCU couldn't handle it, but it certainly helps. And Silva getting those offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities certainly helps. And that's part of the reason that TCU won this game. But it's crazy. I can't believe it. Back-to-back Elite Eights. It's absolutely insane. And hopefully the journey continues beyond that.
Yeah, I got a question for you about like the emotional like vibes, because like to me this one doesn't. I mean, obviously it feels very special. It feels very surreal. It feels very cool. I don't feel as much as that as last year's did. I don't know if you would agree with that sentiment. Like, sure, this is like a brand new group of players to a certain extent, right? There are some holdovers, but it kind of felt like this was the expectation heading into this season, whereas last year it was like this, oh my gosh, what's happening sort of thing. Am I totally off base for that? I'm not saying that I'm not pleased or surprised or elated. It's just that I feel like that one's always going to hold a much more special place in terms of, I mean, it's your first one's always the most memorable one.
I agree. It was like territory that a TCU basketball team, men's or women's, had never entered. It was unforeseen like it was something that had never happened. So I think that first time when it happened was like, wow, it was special. And I think part of it was the journey it took to get there, with beating Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo in Notre Dame, like a team that was really, really good. They beat them early on in the season last year, and you thought, well, okay, are they going to beat them again? That Notre Dame team was a lot better than the Virginia team they just played. I think it was kind of the matchup that they got as well. It's like, oh, okay, they're playing Virginia, they should win. Like that's sort of the expectation. And you're right. That was the standard, is, hey, at the minimum, this TCU team should go to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight. I think that was set when they went and got Olivia Miles, because you knew how talented of a point guard she is, the best playmaking guard in the country, and a great scorer, can rebound the ball too, and is just a great leader. So that was what you were expecting, and the fact they did it is really admirable. But I do agree. I think last year was just very, very special because of what had happened the year before and just all the ups and downs, and it still ended up working out.
And like, I'm not trying to take credit away from this year's team, because absolutely you can even say that there was more pressure on this year's team than last year's, because they had to follow that up, and they were kind of a brand new group that had to build off the success that Van Lith and Prince and Connor had built, and those players weren't here anymore. So there was kind of no telling how this new roster was going to gel, and it didn't matter, right? You still were able to get to the place that they were last year. Now it's your job to eclipse that. And we're going to talk about a preview for the South Carolina game at the end of this, and we'll talk through all the ins and outs of whether or not TCU can pull that one off or not, and go on to the program's first Final Four. But like, this team was able to do something that the last one was able to do. And as I said, probably had more pressure on it than the one last year did, because that one, the Van Lith, Prince, Connor team had expectations, right? We were like, this team could probably be pretty good just based on the fact of who's on the roster. But as you said, right, it was uncharted waters. Like, there was what I remember when we were doing those episodes after those games, even like after the first victory, like even when they beat FDU at Schulmeyer Arena, they blew them out, and they probably were going to win that game. If you play that game 100 times, they probably win it 99 times. But like, we were still like, oh my gosh, TCU just won an NCAA tournament game in women's basketball. Like, I don't remember what the last time this happened. And they beat Louisville, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is happening too. And so like, it's all these sorts of things. And then now the good thing is, now as a TCU women's basketball fan, we're getting into that place where this is just kind of how things go. And that's a fun place to be as a fan. It is a little sad that you kind of lose that wonder and excitement that you had that first time around, but it is also really, really cool that you're kind of one of those programs now where you're like, what? Been here, done that.
Exactly. And you look at the resume this season and the games they've played, they've won so many games, and the losses they've had have all been close. Lost to Ohio State was 2 points, Texas Tech 2 points, Colorado 1 point, and then West Virginia they lost by 9. But they've just kind of steamrolled the competition. They've handled each opponent. They haven't played down to their opponent that often this season. And I agree. It was just kind of like a win over UC San Diego. It was like, okay, well, yeah, they did it. And then you got the scare with Washington, but that was sort of just like all of us thinking, yeah, this should be a breeze, but it's wasn't, and they grinded it out, and then they kind of handled it against Virginia. But I wanted to go back to the game really quick because there was one thing that kind of concerned me, and it's definitely something you can't do against South Carolina.
What could have possibly concerned you about this game, Zion? What the heck?
It was the fourth quarter where Virginia kind of made this a little bit interesting.
Yep.
And look, I'm a big Donovan Hunter fan. Like she's an incredible defensive presence. But my goodness, was she just handing the ball to Virginia at the end there? I think it happened like what, almost 3 plays in a row, I'm pretty sure, where it was just a turnover and then a Virginia layup. So that's something that TCU has to kind of clean up a little bit. Is they're probably going to see some traps from South Carolina, kind of similar to the defense they saw in last year's game. It's kind of a similar, and so you just hope that TCU can kind of overcome that.
Expect some full court pressure maybe early on, because I think TCU has really struggled with that for like the past 2 years. Like overall, it doesn't matter when, if they're up, if they're down or whatever, like they have struggled to break that. And yeah, like when Hunter was turning it over, it was, she would kind of come out on the inbounds pass, catch it, and then they'd immediately trap. And then she tried to pass it to Suarez, I think was usually the inbounder, and calamity would ensue. Yeah.
You want to see this? It was, so Suarez fouled Samaya Smith with 2:20 left. They make both free throws. Donovan Hunter turnover. Jillian Brown makes a 2-point layup. Donovan Hunter turnover. Marta Suarez foul. They go to the line. They get it within 10. And then Hunter then had another turnover a few, like a minute later or something. It was just, that was some sloppy play there. Ultimately, it didn't matter. TCU ended up winning that game. But yes, it's something where I saw that and I'm like, oh man, if South Carolina is probably going to do that pretty early on in the game, TCU's got to find a way to figure it out. And then also, and for Hunter as well, hopefully she can knock down a couple threes and find her shot, because she's kind of been struggling with it over the last few games. And it's definitely important because, hey, Suarez, she's a great shooter. Taylor Bigby, you can rely on her to hit some threes, but it would be really huge if Donovan Hunter could knock down some threes here as we kind of transition into this South Carolina preview.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to go exactly for how TCU can win against this South Carolina team. I mean, we can talk about the game that happened last year at Dickey's. I mean, there's not much really that you can bring out of that other than like TCU got their butts
butt whooping.
Yeah. Funny that we use the same way to describe that.
At the same time too. Yep.
I think like a couple of things are going to have to go right. I think starting with Donovan Hunter is a kind of a great place to start. Like you're going to need your auxiliary weapons to contribute maybe more than they have, or maybe more than they needed to against Virginia. Like, yeah, it's great that Marta Suarez and Olivia Miles contributed on every single point, but you know dang well sure that Dawn Staley is going to make sure those two don't beat her because she has the talent to man up against those two players that maybe Virginia or Washington or UC San Diego don't, right? And so you're going to need, if they're going to double Suarez or Miles and Big B's open in the corner, you're going to need her to make that shot. You're going to need Hunter to make that shot. So you're also going to need Hunter, also going to need Suarez and Miles to go ballistic. I think is also something that you're going to need to happen here. Like if that can happen, as well as Hunter and Big B and Silva having a good day as well, I think you got a shot. I honestly, Zion, I think it's going to be tough. Like I'm not seeing a lot of favorable paths to a victory here. The top end of women's college basketball is just so far removed from the rest, and that's just all the one seeds in this tournament specifically: UConn, UCLA, and Texas, and South Carolina. But if TCU can pull off a win, hey, like that, it would no doubt about it be the largest, most consequential victory in TCU basketball history, men's or women's.
100%. It would be an absolutely insane win. And look, we're just kind of being real here. We're not going to be a homer and say that, oh yeah, TCU's got this, because South Carolina is a juggernaut, right? They have made it to this point in the tournament year after year after year, and it's no coincidence. Dawn Staley is just an incredible coach. I'm trying to see. They've been in the Final Four in 6 of the past 8 seasons and won 3 national championships during that stretch. And Dawn Staley's been at the helm for all of them. So there's a reason that South Carolina is as feared as they are. They won 103-34 in the first round.
What the heck?
103-34. They beat USC 101-61, beat them by 40, and then beat Oklahoma by 26. Now, TCU is better than all those teams, sure. But it just goes to show, like you said, the level of competition that you're facing with South Carolina, and just the talent level at the top here in this tournament is going to be challenging. UConn just beat Notre Dame by 18. UCLA beat Duke by 12. Texas is playing Michigan tomorrow. I'm gonna assume Texas will probably win that game. So you almost gotta be a little scrappy, a little gimmicky. Just try to find any way to cause some chaos, some confusion, and hope Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez just have their shot down, and they can just overcome whatever South Carolina, whatever the Gamecocks throw at them, because it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of different looks, and I'm confident that Mark Campbell can get them ready, but at the end of the day, it's just a really different level of different breed that you're facing here tomorrow. So it's going to be tough. I obviously would love it and if TCU won this game, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm absolutely confident in it.
I will, I agree with all that you just said, but I'm going to spread a kernel of optimism and maybe a way that they can win this game, or why TCU has a better shot than maybe some of the other teams facing juggernaut 1 seeds have. Whereas, I don't know, let's just throw out Oklahoma, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. Oklahoma has like 1 star that they can go out there. Aaliyah Chavez had 21 points that led the way for the Sooners, right? And so like you got 1 player for OU who you can count on to have a good day in and day out. The same could be said for a lot of other women's basketball teams. TCU's got 2 of them. And if both of them can have a good day, that really, I think, changes the complexion of how things go.
Yeah.
And you saw that against Virginia. Like if Suarez and Miles, who arguably will be like Miles, I think undoubtedly would be, best player on the court no matter what. If both of them can become the best players in the game, that transcends TCU to a level that few teams can beat. Now, South Carolina would be one of those teams that could do that because they just have that depth. All 5 players, I think, are averaging I think they have 5 players averaging double digits. Like, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to
That's
beat.
insane.
That's tough. That's tough to beat. And TCU simply just doesn't have that depth in terms of scoring. So obviously it is going to be so hard. And like, I'm not picking TCU to win this game. I think they're probably going to lose. But if there is any way, it is like that. Like they just need both. Maybe not necessarily to contribute to all 79 points. Heck, they probably need more than 79 to win the game. But it's unless it's a defensive slogfest. But
Yeah. You just need
I'm rambling. You need a good day. You need to have a good day.
You need South Carolina maybe to just not have their rhythm offensively. Again, you just got to create pressure on defense. I think that's where this game's going to be won. I know we've talked a lot about what Miles and Suarez need to do, but defensive pressure is could potentially win this game for TCU. Like you got to find a way to just create some chaos, create turnovers, create second chance opportunities. The rebounding and defensive battle is going to be the difference in this game, and it's going to be an uphill battle. And it's an uphill battle for TCU even if they win this game. They got to play if even if they beat you at South Carolina. I almost said USC, but I guess they are.
It would have worked.
It would have worked, but I think of the Trojans. Even if you beat South Carolina, you got to play UConn in the Final Four, and they've absolutely steamrolled everybody. And then if you somehow win that, then you got to play either UCLA or Texas in the national championship. So you got to slay 3 number 1 seeds most likely if you're going to win the whole thing. But the focus right now is on the Elite Eight. And at the end of the day, if TCU loses this game, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is terrible. What, are you kidding me? It's been a great season. And if they go out and lose tomorrow, it's just a buzzsaw most likely, unless it's like in their hands and they had a chance to win and they blow it, then you might be a little disappointed. But it's been such a great year for TCU, and hopefully it continues. We want them to win, obviously.
We'll see how our emotions play out after the fact. Right now, I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. I know we've been talking doom and gloom for the past 10 minutes here, but I do think it's important to recognize the fact that this is freaking nuts. What's happening with TCU women's basketball? I do want to talk about a little bit about how good of a sports day it was yesterday for TCU. I'm pretty sure the buzzer sounding for the win in the Sweet 16 and then the Chase Brunson walk-off against Texas Tech happened probably within 15 seconds of one another in real lifetime.
That's so cool. That was really awesome. And it was against Texas Tech as well. If you hadn't seen it, Texas Tech's baseball's Twitter account had the cringiest attempt at a roast of Preston Gamster for arguing a strike 3 call. That was a ball, by the way. And
ABS,
yeah,
challenge
no
it.
ABS. And TCU ended up winning. And then they came out today and they swept Texas Tech. Shout out to the Frogs. A sweep over Tech. I'll take it.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on like how freaking nuts like that was. I remember like I wasn't watching the baseball game, admittedly. I had all my focus on the women's team in the Sweet 16. Also, opening ESPN Plus nowadays is like the most tedious thing in the entire world. That thing, the interface there is absolutely ludicrous. And the fact that never mind. I can go on an ESPN Plus rant for 4 hours about
it's a maze.
It is a maze. It is a maze. And it always believes I'm not logged in.
That's brutal.
But it just was so cool. Like I'm watching the game and then I see on my Twitter feed everyone like, hey, the baseball team just won too. Like at the exact same time. It was really, really cool for that to happen. And against Tech, right? And after they tried to roast you. By the way, Texas Tech fans very mad at the Twitter admin as well.
It was kind of funny to see. I'm like, okay, at least they understand how cringy that was. It was like a stay for the strikeout. What was it? Something like
I'll find
the
it.
hissy fit. Like,
hissy fit. It was a hissy fit.
Stay for the hissy fit. Like, what are we doing? A hissy fit? What in the big 2026? Anyways, and then hey, shout out to the baseball team. They pulled off a sweep. They desperately needed that, by the way. We'll have baseball coming up here soon, but they desperately needed that sweep. So glad they were able to take down Tech and get some wins there.
Yeah, what's more important, a sweep of Texas Tech or a trip to the Elite Eight? You asked me.
I don't know. I'd say the Elite Eight. I was also just watching basketball. I was locked in there.
I was locked in. Oh, and yesterday Brock Harding announced he's returning to TCU. That's another thing we can add to the good TCU sports day.
That's big time.
I did not know he had eligibility left.
Yeah, he's a junior. So I think Jaden Pierre and maybe one other player was a senior. There's still a lot of guys that can return for the men's team, but it's be good to have most of that core return.
Put Brock Harding on the court against South Carolina. I don't care.
Let's do it. Let's just get him out there. That would be a fun backcourt. Brock Harding and Olivia Miles. Let's run it. That'd be, we still might lose, but you know what? At that point, who cares? No, I'm just kidding. We do really hope that the women's team could pull off this upset because again, South Carolina is the standard. They have been the standard for women's college basketball. Love to see a win. Any thoughts before this Elite Eight game tomorrow?
Enjoy it, Frog fans. Like, have a good time with it. Hopefully it's hopefully it's a good game. Like, here the preferred outcomes are obviously TCU blows South Carolina out of the water. Like that would be a preferred outcome for sure. Or it's just a good game that ends in a TCU win. A good game and a TCU loss is kind of mixed emotions, and obviously a blowout loss would be a kind of a dull feeling for sure. It's never fun to know you've lost by the third quarter. You're just sitting there, just waiting for it to end. It's never fun.
It's not fun, but enjoy the fact that TCU's in this situation again. It's very rare, no matter what program you are, to get back to the Elite Eight and back-to-back seasons with as much roster turnover as Mark Campbell has had. The fact that he still has this team fighting and in this spot, and with injuries as well, not to mention Maddie Shear, Leah Roberson. I mean, it has been just a tremendous run here, and we hope it continues into the Final Four. But we will recap the Elite Eight game against South Carolina for you. We'll still keep the conversation going with TCU men's and women's basketball, just kind of a season recap. And of course, we'll have baseball as well. So still plenty to talk about regarding TCU athletics. Thank you all for tuning into this episode. You can subscribe to our YouTube page or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.